So we have two persons will come to FAU today for the career panelist. So let me introduce you everyone. Larissa gonna be the interviewer for this session today. So please welcome Larissa.
Hello. I don't know if much of an interviewer, but more of a facilitator. So this is our career panel. So we have guest Samantha McLeod, okay, from company SCCI. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. NCCI here in Florida, I apologize. Melanie Webner from Oxford University. Isabel Camejo, a dear friend of mine. She's a high school teacher at Suncoast, right here in Palm Beach County, Suncoast High School. Dr. Stadnik, right here, she's a professor here at FAU. And Ha Chan, also a professor at Concordia University in Canada. So the purpose of the career panel is for more so our audience to ask any questions about these professionals in their various fields, things to be interested in, knowing if you're interested in pursuing a degree or a career is something similar to what they're doing. But before we begin asking questions from the audience, can I start by asking you all to please answer just a quick introduction about yourself. What got you interested in the field that you're in, and just what do you do?
I'll go first. So my name is Sam McLeod. As Larissa mentioned, I work at NCCI. I am an actuary. I've been at NCCI since 2007, so almost 15 years, and that was right after I graduated from FAU with my master's in mathematics and applied statistics. And as I was going through my studies at FAU, I recognized that while I enjoyed the theoretical math, I really wanted a career where I could apply my math, solving problems, working formulas. I just really wanted something more concrete. And I had a friend who was also studying in the graduate program who was taking actuarial exams for fun. And so I also started doing that. Sounds a little strange, but I did find that I enjoyed it. And by the time I graduated from FAU, I had 2 exams passed, and then I was able to apply to NCCI and get a job there.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Mariastadnik. It's my 5th year here at FAU. I started college as a math major. I always liked math, and I didn't know what that meant, and then I had a lot of old white men that were teaching me different levels of math my first 2 years, and then I finally met a female 30-something mathematician, and I was like, I want to be you. And she was like, oh, okay, do this, this, and this. So I went to a lot of talks and stuff as an undergrad, and then went right into math grad school at Purdue. I switched to Northwestern, where I got my PhD. And then I spent, from there, my husband is also a math PhD. And so I spent 5 years at a liberal arts college teaching in Alabama, which was a lot of fun. You got a lot more range of teaching levels, but the classes were a lot smaller. The rooms only sat 24 instead of 125 like here. But it was a lot of fun, and I loved that job, teaching at a small college. But my husband was not happy in this small city. So to get him to more job opportunities, we ended up moving. That's how we got the job. I got the job here at FAU. And I love FAU too. I like big classes. I didn't know I would. But you kind of get the same feeling in a lot of different places. So it's been all over the map, but I'm happy to be here now. And so it's my academic home is happy here.
Thank you, Dr. Snyder. Isabel, would you mind coming off mute and telling us about yourself?
Hi, how are you doing? I actually studied mathematics when I was 43 years old. I didn't have that goal when I was young, so actually I'm a journalist, and I worked for about 20 years in public relations. And it was only when I moved to the US when I knew that there was a call somewhere in the back of my head that told me, you need to do math. So that was a very dramatic change, going from public relations to education and mathematics. but that's what happened. So I had my certification when I was 45 years old, and at 46, I landed a job as a teacher with Palm Beach County. So it has been a career so far, 13 years. I finished my master's degree in curriculum and instruction with concentration in mathematics at FAU in 2017. And when I was at that fork thinking, should I do something administrative for my master's or something that keeps me in the classroom? I was totally clear that I wanted to be in the classroom. I didn't want to do anything administrative with the schools because I do enjoy teaching. I've been a teacher in middle school, in high school. I've been in 4 different schools with so many different type of children. And now learning how to teach, not just in the pandemics, but now after the pandemics, which is even more challenging. So this is a career that I love. I listened to all the presentations today in the morning and in the afternoon. It is so fascinating where we are going with mathematics. And thank you for sharing everything, because I will share all those cryptologies and machine perceptions and everything that I learned today with my kids on Tuesday when I am back to school. So this is my brief presentation.
And Dr. Wagner, could you please introduce yourself?
Me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, yeah, hi. I'm Melanie. I'm, as was said, at the University of Oxford, so I always loved math and was like very sure that I wanted to do that in college. So I went to college for mathematics in Germany, in my home country. And then after that, I went right to grad school. So I did a PhD in mathematics at Princeton, which I finished actually just last spring in 2021, so pretty recently. And afterwards, I came here to Oxford, where I'm now a research fellow. So I'm an early career independent researcher, and I work on a research program related to machine learning. So I look at using geometric ideas, mostly from differential geometry, and apply that to data science and machine learning problems. And I also teach applied mathematics courses. Yeah.
Dr. Chan, please finally.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Ha. So maybe I should tell a little bit story about why I chose math or what is my field of research and so on. So I have been really love teaching math, and I mean teaching and math, both of them from when I was really young. So I would teaching tutoring for my brother and sister, for the kids in my neighborhood, and then my friend, younger brother and sister, and so on, all when I was really young. And then that's why I chose to study in education university for mathematics. And then when I was in the 3rd or the 4th year at the university, there was one professor from Italy who came to my school and gave a talk in number theory and application in cryptography. And it's so inspiring that I later on, when I applied for the grad school, I applied in Italy and hope to work in the field related to that, to the subject. And that's why I'm in number theory. And also I try to do find a connection with cryptography and number theory in my research. Thanks.
Thank you to our career panelist members. So now that you've learned a little bit about our panelists, does anybody have any questions specifically for anyone, or just general questions? Then I will start with one in general for everyone. Do any of you have any mentors? Like Ha just told us that she went to one talk with a guy from Italy and it inspired her, you know, her whole career. Does anybody else have a story similar that somebody just either worked with you or you met them one time and it just kind of ignited this flame inside of you that was like, I mean, Samantha, you told us about your one friend.
Yeah, so I had the friend that was taking exams. I also kind of want to give a little shout out to Dr. Locke because I was getting my bachelor's degree. And when I was graduating, he actually said something to me at the graduation, like, what was I going to do next? And I was like, I'm not really sure. He's like, you know, we have this master's program that we have if you want to apply to that. So I was like, you know what? I trust, sure, I'll apply to the master's program. And then when I was taking the actuary exams and I was close to finishing up my master's degree, he's like, well, do you know what company or where you're going to work? And I was like, I don't really know. He's like, you know, there's NCCI. It's down the street at Boca. I was like, right, I'm applying there. Twice that he has steered me in a really good direction. So I would say, you know, a thank you to him for just casually saying things, and it really worked out very well for me. Besides those instances, I do feel like I've been lucky to have, you know, one or two good managers that really, you know, saw something in me as far as like, we noticed this particular talent, we want you to hone that. This is something you should focus on in your career, you know, look more towards management or look more towards research projects or look more towards certain things like that. But I know that it's not always something that you can choose because your manager and who you work for is something that's sort of just assigned to you sometimes. But I would say that I've had a couple of good managers that I really, really vibed with.
Great. I've had, I guess the undergraduate professor was my first great mentor that I had. We still keep in touch, but only with, you know, holiday cards. And then in graduate school, the graduate teaching advisor, so like the equivalent of Sonia, whoever that is, you know, that kind of takes care of all the students. She and I got very close, and she really did a lot to help me. She was also married to a research mathematician. And so I got a lot of sort of advice from her about the way things, you know, could work in a two-body problem. They sort of made it work, and I did get a lot of advice from her throughout the entire process of graduate school. And then my first job in Alabama, it's a small department, so it's like 5 of us total. And then the one woman who was maybe 12 years older than I is still a dear friend. So we really hit it off. And she helped me a lot through everything. The first time you flunk a kid, the first time all these things that you have to do that are kind of difficult. You contemplate cheating, what do you do? How do you go up, you know, 3-year review or whatever? All of that I did with her. And that was actually super awesome. And she's still a dear friend. We text all the time. So she's a big part of my life that I think that I got as a mentor. I wouldn't be the same person if it weren't for her. So shout out to Bernie Mullins.
Any of our virtual career panelists, do you all have anybody that inspired you you'd like to mention? No. All right.
I can maybe answer that. So many of my mentors were, as people have said earlier, like undergrad thesis advisors or my PhD advisor. Those are kind of people who are in a natural mentoring relationship with you. But maybe apart from that, I think it's also always important to have a peer mentoring group. So to, you know, build a network with people who are at a similar career stage than you and have that community, because those are people who go through the same things and face the same similar difficulties than you at the same time. And I always found that community with fellow grad students, for instance, very important. And those are people you stay in contact with as you move on. So I'm still close friends with people that I met during undergrad and who have maybe gone on to do similar things or different things, but these communities that you build are, I would say, as important as having more senior people that mentor you.
Yeah, I also want to echo what Melanie say a little bit. So of course I have many great mentors, like my PhD supervisor, my postdoc mentors. I have several of them, and they all great, and they are my role model for me to in the future for me to work for it. But I also have great friends who not only encourage me to apply for grad school, but also help me, like, you know, when I was in undergrad school, I don't know anything about scholarship or I don't know, like grad school or something like or job in university, for instance, like professorship and so on. But I have friends who went to abroad before me, and they know all of these, and of course they help me a lot. Like you have to start with your CV. You have to write your CV. I never have a CV before. You have, and they help me to polish my CV. They help me to translate my thesis into English and how to apply for grad school and so on. So I totally agree that beside your mentor, you need some, I don't know, even friends or a network with people with similar situation, and they can help you too.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Okay, this next question is kind of, I'm bouncing off of some comments that you guys made. Is there any advice that you would give to any of the people in the room, or just anybody looking into a career in actuarial sciences or to become, going into academia? I know the rest of you all are professors or high school teachers, some kind of teachers. So what, I guess, start off with, if you mind, what is the process in going into your field? And what are some key points of advice that you would give as far as networking with colleagues and, you know, putting yourself in the right places to get into the field? Because, you know, we were just talking about it recently, and especially for professors right now, it's a hard job to get in mathematics. So is there any tips or advice that any of you all would give to the audience?
So I think starting with kind of the path to get into actuarial sciences, the starting path really comes down to the exams, and it is something that you can start on your own if you want to, because you can get a manual and you can register for the exam, and there's no requirement for like that first exam, it's probability. The second exam is financial math. So if you wanted to, you could go off and start studying for it and start taking exams and start getting credits for that. What helps with the exams, because they often take a lot of study time on your own hours, is to have a study group, or barring knowing people that are already studying for the exams, there's a lot of online resources, discussion forums, websites for the Casualty Actuarial Society or the Society of Actuaries, where you're able to like get in touch with peers and other people that are also studying for exams and looking to build into the actuarial world. There's organizations like the Casualty Actuaries of the Southeast, aka CASE. That's an organization that reaches out to the southeastern states, including Florida, and there are other such territorial organizations. I don't know if territorial is the right word, but organizations that are also in different territories around the US. CANE is in the Northeast, CAGNY is in New York, and so on. And those are good sources of mentors, people that are already in the industry, people that are working their way through the industry. Additionally, CASE, for example, also provides scholarships and grants for universities and for individual students who are studying in the actuarial science. And I feel like FAU maybe has not, because we don't really have an actuarial program. I think we have an actuarial certificate, but another shout out, if you wanted to, you could apply for a grant from CASE. And it's like a 2-year grant for about $2,500.
And then for our professors, you guys study, well, actually, 2 of us study, well, we study similar things among the 3 of you. But I mean, maybe you guys have different pointers you might like to give to us. But Isabel, if you don't mind starting, because you're different from them, right? High school is a different path to become a teacher. So can you give us some advice to our college students in the room that might be looking to go into education?
Well, when you are in the classroom, I think that best teachers are your students. Your students will be teaching you so many things that you will be amazed. It is important to read their faces because that's when you can modify what you're doing because maybe it is not working very well. So my tip for the students who are going into education, especially if you're teaching math, we need to be aware all the time about that fear of math that is so spread out, especially students go to middle school already with a fear of math. And then many times in high school, more than half of our students will have already experienced that frustration with math. And the most challenging part of our work is to help them recover some self-confidence, for them to know that they can do math. So yeah, the experience in the classroom can be very frustrating sometimes, but it also depends on how open we are to change our strategies, to listen to what they need, to make accommodations, because mathematics, especially when you get to algebra, it can be hard for them. I try not to, I basically let them, the struggling kids, because those are my focus, basically, although I have the honor students and the regular students, so I have all the diversity. But what I am always more focused is with the struggling students. And I tell them, you know what, mathematics is not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time. Everyone can do it, but I don't think that it is a good idea to tell them, oh, this is easy, you know, because what if they're struggling with something and you tell them, that's so easy? They will think, okay, if that is easy, why is it that I don't get it? So we don't want to make them feel like that they can't. So for me, the most important thing is to give them that confidence that they need to go back to an open mind with learning. The other part about nowadays, very specifically recent years, is that we can be overwhelmed as teachers with so many apps that are thrown at us all the time, even the administration. We talk to our friends, everyone is trying a new app every day. All of those new apps are amazing, and you get excited, you want to try them, but you may also be overwhelmed with so many apps. So it is a good idea to try to limit, like I choose a number of apps, these are the apps that I can manage, and then stick to them. Because once the students know how to log in and how to navigate those apps, you don't want to overwhelm them with so many apps either. So like you go to Google Classroom and now you click here and then you click there and then you need a password for this and then you need it's like yeah, I learned that, especially the last 2 years, that we also need to narrow down the technology we're using. All the technology is amazing. I know that that's unbelievable things that you can do. I love GeoGebra, Desmos, I use MathNation, I use Kahoot, and a lot of other resources. But the risk of getting ourselves overwhelmed with so much technology and overwhelm our kids is there. So that's something that we, I will also warn about the new students, the students who are pursuing this career.
Thank you. Can I just say, as a high school math teacher myself, that's so true. That first year that we came back from the pandemic, I tried all these fun, inventive things to try to get my students engaged again after being home and not caring about class for about a year. And I think it's hard for us to remember that they're also learning technology at this age, even though they know their phones very well. But these brand new apps that you're showing them, it's something they have to learn. So I tried like 5 different apps in the first week, and they were like, "What is going on, Ms. Ramsamy? Please stop." Thank you for pointing that out. That's so true. We have a question from the audience, but I just wanted to get a chance to ask our professors really quickly the same question, if you guys don't mind giving us a quick comment. What advice would you give as far as getting into this field, making yourself?
So I guess I'll start. I guess for those that were in trying to get postdocs, I felt like you had to be in a good research group. You really had to know other people. I was my thesis advisor's first student, and I worked alone with him, and it was nice and it was fine. But it wasn't going to get me anywhere that would get me connected to a good postdoc. I feel like the people that got postdocs, it wasn't even that they were, sometimes some people that had successful postdocs were, I mean, it was like their advisor had somebody they knew that needed a favor. Like it was so arbitrary. I felt like it's just like not fair. But certainly the more people you know, the better off you are. If you work in a community and you're all getting together doing this work, writing papers, and your thesis advisor is other students, I think that getting to know more people by going to conferences will really help, because at the end of the day, like it's a committee of some people that are trying to, they're just trying to pick out a good person. And the truth is now with like math jobs, every application has 400 applicants. And so it's hard to get down to like, why did you get overlooked? Well, that's not really fair. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. So that's my advice, was get to know more people. It's a small world after all.
Can I add a bit more? So I think we have some advice for, I don't know, students who want to go to education, say, or to become a teacher, or the last one is for postdoc. I think I want to share something for a student who are in grad school and who may want to go to, undergrad school and who may want to go to academia, is that follow your passions. And because I think later on, especially when you go to grad school, it's going to be a really long-term project, like at least 4 or 5 years that you study in that field. And if you really you get a job in academia, you want to work in this field for whole life. And it's a lot of challenging, a lot of difficulty arising during the time you're studying and working. So passion is really important for you to keep this going on for whole life, for your career. And in order to see what are your passions, especially for students in first year or even high school or undergrad, is to try to study, for instance, take several courses, different courses, and try to study and see if you really love the subject. You want to spend your whole life, your time to in that field. And then whenever you have that passion, and then I believe you can do everything if you have that real passion and keep going in that path. It's just from my own experience, so I just want to share that.
Melanie, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, maybe one thing to add too. So I think it's a really important point to follow your passion and to find out what excites you, what you're passionate about early on. And what I found helpful for that was to get involved in research early. So oftentimes there are opportunities for advanced undergrads, so maybe in your 3rd or 4th year, to do like either a summer research internship or to get involved in a research group at your university, and just to try out some independent work in a research group, even as an undergrad. And that gives you a lot of information about whether you like that kind of work. And also, if you then apply for grad school, then you get a reference letter from the faculty that you worked with, and you can point to some research that you have already done. So I think that taking such opportunities and that will help you both finding out what's exciting to you, and also then help you to get into grad school and to get into a good graduate program and pursue that career path. So I would really encourage undergrads to seek out such opportunities.
Thank you all for your advice. I'm going to read this question. Hi, I don't know if you noticed it. It's directed specifically towards you. Why do you like number theory? What fascinates you in this field, and where can it be applied?
Oh, thank you for the question. Yeah. So as you hear, I talked about this before, that I was inspired from a professor from Italy who gave an undergrad that he gave a talk in number theory, but with application in coding theory. So you see a real life application of this field, right? And also it have many applications in cryptography. When I was student, the other fact that made me really like number theory that it's challenging compared to other courses. It's really challenge, and you know that they said number theory is the queen of mathematics. So it's beautiful, it's attractive, but it's also challenging, and it's drawn a lot of attention, and I love the field for that too. Of course, it's really difficult too for me to, but when you start studying, and I have really great professor for the field too, that make me love it so much. I hope I answered your question. Yeah, it have many application in coding theory and cryptography, and many people in this field, they can work in academic, but they also work for many companies who are provide products in cryptography or coding theory. And I also have many friends who work for other organizations like NSAs, for instance, or in Canada, I forget the name of the agency, but they have the NSA version, a Canadian version like the one in the US, and I have many friends in number theory who are working for them too.
Can I ask a follow-up question? I remember in undergrad, I was really fascinated by number theory also, and I thought I might pursue a PhD in it. But then I was intimidated because one of my professors said that it was basically a useless field of study unless I also did some, I know, I'm so sorry to say that to you, unless I also went into computer sciences. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about, going back over and doing another bachelor's when I know that I wanted to teach first and foremost math. So would you say that that's true? Like if you wanted to do anything really impactful, do you think you really need to go back and double major or something like that in computer sciences, or that fails?
Yeah, why not? You see Isabel, she started when she was like over 30 or something, right? Or even over 40, and see, she happy with her job. I don't see any problem with that. And I remember when I was a postdoc in Calgary before, there one lady, she was I think like almost 60 years old, and she did her master degree there, and she said she was she was busy with children and job and so on until she was at that age, and all of her children only grew up and finished university, and she come back to study in mathematics when she was almost 60, and she was like one of the best students there. So I don't see why not.
So actually, as you just mentioned, we have a couple mothers here on the board, and I don't know about you guys, I imagine it's quite difficult to balance a career and going back to school and raising children. So would you guys mind commenting on some of the struggles you face with that? If there's any advice you'd like to give future mothers in the room?
No, okay. Well, I'm a new mom. I'll go first. Thanks. Yes, I have a daughter that's 6 months old.
Wow.
I did, huh? So I'm in the middle of whatever you think it's going to be. It's a lot when they're this young. She just started crawling, so my husband's like encouraged, and I'm like, no, we just needed her to stay there. Now she's like going around. Oh no, be like a cage. Anyway. The other parents understand where I'm coming from. No, but it's always been a difficult situation being a woman, because no matter what, it falls to you. And it's, it will be, I have a super supportive husband. But when I was in grad school, all the other girls that got pregnant in graduate school, we all got married, most of us or whatever, but the ones that got pregnant then also did not finish the PhD. So they're all ABD. I mean, the N is small. But I know like 4 or 5 girls that didn't finish, and that they have very full lives and they're very happy, but you know, they have, one girl has 8 kids, you know, that's a different life than I have. And so that, and my writer friends also say, book before baby. That's the mantra and thing. So whatever. So I decided to wait. If you wait too long, then you have trouble. So, you know, like you can also wait too long, which is difficult. But the work-life balance, once you have a baby, is kind of insane. I remember asking when I was a graduate student at the Women in Math thing there, asking all the other moms, they were all faculty at Northwestern, and everybody had a nanny. And I was like, that's just not a thing I've ever done or I could think about. Like, you can't have a nanny. That's insane. I don't know. And then now I have one. I have one of my, you know, I teach here. I'm a full-time instructor, so it's just teaching, not research. And they were great I was like, you know, can I just work 2 days a week? And I work 2 to 6. And so I have nanny for 2 half days. So literally like 8 hours a week is whatever. But the trade-off is that I'm grading the rest of the like full-time job that it is to be an instructor, and the administrative stuff I'm doing is on Saturday afternoon. It's at 9 o'clock after the baby goes to bed. It's like I grade quizzes on the floor while she's crawling around, and like you just move the computer over here, and you know, like she goes over there, and so whatever. Anyway, I have a really full life now, but it's hard to have balance. And I think the other thing is that when you're in the academy, you typically move from where you were. So a lot of my friends have kids, then their mother-in-law is close by or whatever. Okay, we have nobody, you know, and we don't, you know, so grandma's coming, my mother-in-law's coming on Wednesday. So it's like, I'm stacking every single thing that I can do while she's here for 10 days because that's my only other outlet. And so that's something to think about in terms of like, it's a sacrifice that we made. We have 8 nieces and nephews, all in Northeast Ohio. We are not there with them. But you know, you can FaceTime I FaceTime with them every weekend. And you know, like my little niece called me last night just because she wanted to see the baby, whatever. So like you can make it work, but it's not like you have to give something up. You can't, nobody has it all. That's what I want to say. Nobody has this like perfect life and the mother-in-law down the street and you know, everything is like roses and unicorns. Yeah. No, there's a fair amount of like real life things, but at the same time, like you figure things out, the babies grow and everything is fine.
Can I ask a slight follow-up question to that? Is research, would you say, one of the things that you sacrificed, or were you
I did certainly for the 2-body problem. Okay. Yes, I was never a serious researcher. Didn't get the postdoc. I didn't care because I was a loner researcher. But yeah, then I got to go to a small school, and there was teaching, research, and service was like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of the 10-year process. So I was still doing research. I was writing papers and publishing, expecting to get tenure or whatever. And my husband was miserable. And it was like, you can't have it all. And so I came here and I ditched actually passed up a job at in DC at a school that was kind of be the same thing, like a small school, because I wasn't ready to leave teaching. And then we didn't want to do DC because it's kind of cold. Yeah. So, you know, in the end it was whatever, but I felt like research had to go away, but that was maybe because I liked teaching so much that I was like, if you can't have it all, I'll totally give up that so that we can have our beach dream. So it was sacrifice and I do miss it. And then I think you can fill up your life other ways. So, but it was a sacrifice.
Isabel, how old was your son when you went back to school? And did it cause you any extra headaches?
Francisco was 13. Mm-hmm.
He was in middle school still.
Back to school.
Temper tantrum high school.
So I just wanted to tell you that, you know, students love our personal stories, so teacher stories. So with your baby, you have plenty of stories to share with your kids all the time. So use them because they love to hear those stories.
It's true, they're super nosy. But you wouldn't say, in general, you would say that he didn't cause you any additional stress having to worry about him and school and work at all at the same time? Or he was manageable at that age?
Well, 13 years old is about manageable now because they are a little grown up and they can, yeah, they can do a lot of things by themselves without monitoring. But I had my husband help, so that was good. So yeah, when I was not there, my husband was there. So yes, of course, it is challenging, but it is doable.
Melanie, you
My neighbor, by the way, she has 3. The teacher who teaches next door. She has 3. She has, I think, 3 years old, 5 years old, and 9 years old children. And I don't know how she manages, but she's doing it. Now she tells the students, if you mail me after school, if you mail me during the weekends, you know that I am not gonna answer because I have a house and I have my kids. But to me, that's amazing. You know, having a full-time job as a teacher and 3 kids at home, different schedules, different school schedules. And having to pick them up after school is I think that it is pretty challenging. I mean, I made it with only 1. You have 3, but yeah, but I see her and she can do it.
You sure she doesn't have a nanny?
No, she doesn't.
I was just kidding. I'm sorry.
It's her and her husband. That's it.
Melanie, you have 2 kids, is that correct?
Sorry, me? Right.
No,
Me? I don't have any kids
Oh,
yet. No.
I heard Melanie too. Yes, I heard Melanie.
I apologize. We actually had an additional question before we move on. Chan, what kind of capabilities need to improve or required mainly that will be helpful to find an academia, a job in industry or academia for graduate students? That's kind of to our professors or no, that's everyone. Sorry. All right, let me put that back up. So like what kind of skills, I guess, do you think that you would need, or what are some characteristics, I guess, we can start with you, Samantha, that you feel like you possess that kind of helped you get into the field, industry field position?
I would say I feel like with math, there's sort of this mindset of generally having pretty good problem solving skills, I think, and that's I think one of the main requirements. I think that just helps out in general with being able to find a position or find work or find a career path. The other thing was that, and I probably, not to go too much into it, but exams are such a big part of the actuarial path. And once you've been in school long enough, you learn how to study independently on your own, how you best learn how to teach yourself things. So that was very helpful, like all the practice, you know, with all the different studying and all the different graduate work that I was doing, that really helped with me being able to say, on my own time, outside of working, I'm gonna have to figure out how I can get in extra time to put towards these exams. And they tend to take, to not sugarcoat it, like 350, 400 hours for each exam. You're taking them like twice a year. So that's just like somehow on your own time. Some jobs offer you study time at work, but that'll be maybe like 100 hours. So you still have to come up with another 250, 300 somehow in like a 4-month period. You just gotta find the time. You gotta get it in somehow. But I feel like that's one thing that school helped train me to do, like without realizing like you know how to do this, you know how to set aside, you know how to make notes, you know how to make note cards, you know how to like test yourself on things and like review stuff on your own. You can do that.
So one thing that came to mind from me, when I was in graduate school at Purdue, my office mate was from mainland China. And she said, Maria, we were the same age and we were two women. She said, will you speak English with me? Because I want to learn to speak English better. And I said, okay, sure. And so she would read the Purdue Exponent newspaper every day. And like before we got there, and she would ask me questions from the Exponent. What is macho? And it's things that you can't really understand. She read I remember one day she wrote on the board. She said, okay, so it's owl, but bowl? I was like, yeah, it's owl and bowl. Yeah, it's totally add a B in the front. Anyway, so her English, when all the other grad students came, they were all, from different places all over the world. And then I like to think I helped her get her English a lot better because she was also got involved with other people and other groups on campus, but like she was one that it was easier for her to get a job because her English was markedly better because she had went out early and actively was like, hey, I want to stay in America, help me out. And so that's other advice I think I would get was like, I think that really helped her. So if you're international student and you want to stay in America, really branch out of your comfort zone. I feel like all the South Koreans at Purdue all hung out together and they were really close knit, but then they could only go wherever their friends went or back home because they couldn't branch back out to stay in the States. And so that I felt like I didn't realize that could happen and like how the rest of us could help others sort of make America like a better, have a better end product at the end of the day. So something like that. So that's what came to my mind.
Thank you. I think that's a really helpful point because we do have, especially here at FAU, we have a lot of international students that.
Yeah, if you want to, everyone to come and chat.
Let's just learn English together.
Yeah, let's all do it. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I just have a question for younger students. So I'm in high school. I'm a freshman.
Nice. Hi, fresh meat.
And I've been trying to get involved with basically any and everything that I hear about on the campus. And I feel inclined more to a STEM field. And I did my science fair project on physics.
Okay.
And is there ever a point where I'll just have a feeling that what I'm doing is right? Because I feel like I'm on a good path now, but I don't know what it'll turn into.
Oh, well, there doesn't need to be like a eureka moment. I don't know.
Can I just repeat the question really quick for the audience? So I'll repeat it out loud. I don't think we actually have a specific mic anywhere. And so
the green microphone, so.
Oh, okay. Do you want to just say it a little louder?
I was just asking a question about advice for high schooler students and when they'll sort of feel like they know where they're headed and if there's any kind of confusion.
So I don't think there has to be a eureka moment, but you have to like what you do. I think that thing about passion, in order to go to math graduate school, for example, then you really have to like to do math all the time. So I did 3 different summer undergraduate research things. Well, 2, and then 1 the summer after I graduated, where you spend immerse yourself in 8 weeks of doing math, and that really helped. I did a week-long thing at NC State in applied math, where you whacked a beam, and I don't know, and we had to model it with an ODE, and then the punchline was that you needed a PDE. Yeah, those are math things. Go Google them. But I remember being so bored. I don't whack a beam. I don't whack and that's just not what I like. I'll write the paper. And that was what I did when I did math modeling. And when I was a math major in undergrad too, and it was just I'll write the paper. I knew it wasn't for me. I didn't have that really good feeling. I never liked the physical stuff, physical applications. But it doesn't mean that so I knew what I didn't like, I guess, before I found what fit for me was number theory. And then But a lot of my friends, it just depends. You could fall in with a good teacher in high school, or you fall in with somebody like it. That's all it really takes. You can figure out what you don't like. That's a lot easier, but it doesn't have to be so like, oh my gosh, I love this. You know, I learned about RNA and now I want to be making codes. So it doesn't have to be like that. But if you have to like what you're doing though. Like, so you have to like your math classes if you want to be a math major. You have to like physics if you're going to be a physics major. And a lot of times the major kids always come in and they, at least when I was at this liberal arts college, all the students, they just wanted to be doctors because they wanted to help people. And then they all changed because not everybody's going to be a doctor. They just think I want to do math, or I want to do science. I like science, you know. And I'm like, you can help people a lot of ways. Like I help people and I don't do anything gross. That stuff is gross and it's really important, but I do everything with a paper and a pencil. And I've never taken a lab class like that. You know? So you be open to things. Like when you pick your major, it's not like, you know, like if we went in as math majors, it just doesn't mean that was, you know, lots of people change majors. You got to find the people that are like you on campus. And so then like go with an open mind and go to a school that feels right. And then from there, you'll be able to decide what you want. And there's no wrong thing.
Yeah. Commented, I don't know if you saw that you can change your major easily. Isn't there some percentage, like, I don't know, I went to undergrad many years ago, but it was like 33%, like a third of the student population changed their major within the first 2 years or something like that. Yeah, it's probably so.
If they're at FWI high, we like to try to keep them here.
Yeah. Stay here, just change your major.
Starting with math, we like to keep them.
Any other advice from the audience? Oh, sorry, from our virtual channel? Yeah, questions directed towards you.
Oh, really? 5 times?
Wow.
Gee, what?
Oh, we're getting a lot of questions now. Please hold. Okay, did you see, apparently most adults change their careers 5 times, so no pressure. Just go with the flow. Can I just throw in there, I don't know if I missed it while I was trying to update the audience on what your question was, but I think one thing that has helped expose me a lot to different areas of research, because I knew I loved math since I was in the 3rd grade. I knew I wanted to teach it, but you know, coming back to grad school, I always thought I would want to go into some kind of research, but I had no idea what there was to research. I only knew number theory, algebra, and analysis. And then, you know, you go to different talks on campus and there's a lot of interdisciplinary fields. Like, I don't know if you were here, I think you missed it. Archana did a talk earlier about her research. She's a math PhD student, but she's working with a professor here that does research on HIV. And that's just so cool, you know. And then we had a talk with Dr. Han, and he does AI, and you know, there's so many fields. So I think if you go to as many talks as possible or conferences, especially once you get into undergrad, just harass your department. What's going on? Can I get some money? Fly me out to all over the country so that I can go to these conferences and see what's out there. I think something will inspire you then. Okay, sorry, 2 questions. So Melanie, what are some of the biggest differences you've noticed between working in industry and academia?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So maybe for background, so my industry experience is like very specific to industry research. So during grad school, I have interned at Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, so the big tech companies, and always in the AI labs of those companies. And then I'm also involved in a AI startup. So I'm the chief scientist of that startup, which means also that I work on research there. So I really have like a very narrow view on industry. And I would say within that narrow experience, the differences are not actually that big. I would say in academia, you have a little bit more freedom of like what you choose to research. So you can focus more on like foundational questions, which maybe not immediately translate into an application. Whereas in industry, especially with the startup, now that I'm involved in, most of your research is going to be sort of closer to a consumer and more motivated by a direct application. So you might still look at some like foundational research question, but usually there's like a very clear path on how that is going to be applied. And that's certainly not true for my academic research. So even though I work on machine learning questions, most of it is like really theoretical machine learning, really focused on foundational questions about why an algorithm works well, or giving like some fundamental mathematical guarantees on the performance of an algorithm, which is helpful to know and will hopefully inform some applications down the line, but which is not directly tied to a specific application. Yeah, so that's the difference that I see in my work, that sort of this very foundational work is maybe better done in academia in most cases. But if you're excited about specific application or like to see sort of directly see where your work has an impact, then maybe an industry setting is better.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to make a quick comment. I know that we're well over time. I apologize for that. If anybody needs to leave, please, by all means. I'll just ask this last question from our audience member, Monica. Thank you so much. How do you think more women in mathematics can be involved? Apparently in her country, there's not a huge population of women in mathematics. So she's asking, how can they bring change, I guess, over there specifically, or just in general?
Exposure is seeing that there are women in math, seeing that there are women in a broad category of work in math, studying math, teaching math, working in math-related industries. I just think people don't always know that this is out there, that this is available to them, and that it's possible. And that just, it never enters their mind. And it's like, oh, women can be in math. They don't see any women.
I wanted to add a bit here that, so in number theory, we have a group called Women in Number, or WIN, short for WIN, where we meet like, I think every 3 years. I don't remember, and we organize into different group and working together, and this involve own women in number theories. And I think in North America we have AW, so right, so American Women in Mathematics, and in Europe I think we also have a similar one, European Women in Mathematics. So but that's a big organization. But in my field, we have women in number one, and I think that's a really good networking where you can see more women in this field, and you can get mentor from them and so on. So I really hope that we have more kind of organization like this in different branches of mathematics, and involve more female students and I don't know, all women in different stage of career, and work together and get know each other more, and connection, and inspiring more young students. I don't think that I answer your question directly, but I just want to say this is my hope and what I believe, that it's gonna get more women involved in mathematics.
I think outreach too, maybe, like getting into younger classrooms would help. Like if you were women going into younger classrooms to help the young people see that there are more women doing math and cool stuff.
Yeah. So Monica, you made the first step coming here today. Now you have to go and spread your branches out in your country and tell them to come next year. Absolutely. Okay, thank you all so much. Thank you especially to our career panelist members. Thank you guys so much for being here for us today. And we hope that everybody will come back next year. So at this time, our people in person, we'd like to take a picture. Okay. We have certificates for our career panelist members, but we'll send those out to you, our virtual members later. So we're gonna harass you for your address soon. Please look out for that email, and then you all will get them to you shortly. Thank you all, everybody virtually. You're free to sign off. Thank you so much for coming. Please join us again next year.